We recently switched to delivering mesh and texture data, and a little bit further ago, avatar texture data through content delivery networks. That has proven to be very, very successful. The amount of data our content delivery network delivered to users in January was pretty close to 1.9 petabytes. So try to find the equivalent number for anybody else and then tell me we've got competition. I'm Oz Linden, Director of Engineering at Linden Lab for Second Life, and you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley.
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Drexter Dupre. I'm here with Jo Yardley in 1920s Berlin. Hi, Jo.
Hello.
And we heard in the station ID a man by the name of Oz Linden, who, by the way, his avatar looks like him. He's a magician. He looks like a magician in real life and in Second Life. He's the Director of Second Life Engineering at Linden Lab. By the time you're listening to this show, he has addressed and listened to a bunch of educators at the 8th Annual Virtual World's Best Practices of Education Conference in Second Life. VWBPE is wrapping up on Saturday 18th, probably with some dancing. Sorry, Jo. You know that educators like to dance in Second Life, right?
No, they were like talking about history and educational stuff.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. I spent lots of time trying to promote their cause outside of the insular world that is Second Life. My YouTube channel is full of almost 100 videos depicting various really exciting projects. So I have a soft spot for them. I kid.
Oh, that's very funny.
All right, let's get back to the point. Ebbe Altberg, CEO of Linden Lab, spoke as well in that conference, and we'll have at the very end of today's show a nice collage of highlights of his keynote, which we're going to be dissecting as well.
He did it again. How does he do it? You know, the way he talks, the way he seems to be able to, get everyone excited and convince people that things are going well and that we're going in the right direction. And he's just very good with words and people.
He's good. He's the Philip Rosedale of Sweden.
Isn't? I think Philip Rosedale is the Ebbe Altberg of Florida or wherever he lives.
I actually don't know where he was born, but he went to school in San Diego, and now he's in San Francisco. A couple of housekeeping notes, and then we get on with the show. You can always get in touch with us any which way. Ping the show's avatar Drax Files, send us news scoops, let us know what's happening in Second Life and elsewhere. On Skype, you can leave us a voicemail. The email is radio@draxfiles.com. You can become a sponsor with us. You have your own banner displayed on the website. We have a new sponsor. We have Arrows Avatars by Pyrain. Pyrain. I wear one of those avatars probably. The Dragster is Arrows Avatars by Pyrain, the new 2013 Dragster. There's, of course, the pre-2013 old Dragster.
You call that new? 2013.
I upgraded in 2013 and it changed my entire life. I got the facelift, I got the plastic surgery. It was huge. I don't regret it. You can also support the show on an individual basis by taking out a voluntary subscription. $100 Linden per month. That's $25 Linden per show. Now, let's move on. The Virtual World's Best Practices Educational Conference, Ebbe addressed the crowd.
There were about 200, I think.
There were 200 people.
I crashed a few times as well, and there were sound issues, and even SL Go was suffering. But in the end, I managed it.
It goes to show you that the platform, as we all know, still has problems.
Don't push it to its limits. It will cry.
Now, Ebbe talked about a whole bunch of things, and towards the end, he talked about the new platform and took a whole bunch of questions. Now, he said that 40-plus people are working now on SL2.
They have a semi-official name, but they're keeping it a secret. But they call it, I think... the next gen. Yeah, next
generation virtual world, because of the comparison between SL and the new thing is flawed, as he put it.
It is also a very good way to describe it, because in the games industry, in the game world, next gen is the big thing. It's the big keyword everyone's talking about.
Oh, then the youngsters, when they're on their Twitters and their newfangled toys, they talk about next gen.
Yeah, so when they read somewhere next generation virtual world and nobody even mentions Second Life, they might actually get excited.
Well, when I read next generation, I think of Captain Picard. But anyway, so they're working full steam ahead. Ebbe also said that alpha users are going to be allowed into the next-gen virtual world in the summer, but they must know Maya, the 3D modeling software. For now, he says, anyway, maybe Blender soon. That caused a little bit of an, not uproar, but some follow-up questions.
I think they'll allow a lot of more people in than just people with Maya. But he said that Maya is a very demanding bit of software, especially for the virtual world. So they thought, let's jump in at the deep. Later on, there will be adding Blender and all sorts of things.
Also, the main reason is that internally they have Maya people who know the software, and they started creating content. They started to kind of build out stuff. So I think that was the decision in the very early stages to test what they have to work on to just speak this one language.
It is scary because I'm really looking forward to trying, next gen SL, but there is no way in the world that I can even afford, Maya, because I think it costs $3,000 or $1,000 a year or something like that. It's that's a fortune.
I know you want it in the beginning. Yeah. Okay. So they need to wire you $3,000. I understand.
Yeah. Or anyone, it's not that I'm demanding it from Linden Lab. Anyone can give me $3,000. Please feel free.
Well, the one thing I think that question brings up is two things, because we're both in the alpha and high fidelity, and high fidelity seems to try to go the route of outsourcing a lot of services to third parties. For instance, the facial animation is done with software called FaceShift. They're talking about outsourcing text chat and all this kind of stuff. So my question here when I heard Ebbe say that is, what is the building going to look like? Will it be outsourced? And then when you're in and maybe you can tweak it. One of the big things about Second Life is obviously the collaborative building aspect. But I'm pretty sure they're conscious of that is a big thing.
I would be very surprised if there is no in-world building, because to me personally, that is one of the best things about Second Life. But, we are getting a little bit goosebumps and a little bit scared when we hear this talk of complicated software like Maya or Blender. I mean, I still don't understand Blender, and I've been building mesh in Second Life for the last 1 or 2 years, and I'm only making mesh because I've got an in-world mesh builder. If I didn't have Mesh Studio, I'd still, Berlin would not have changed for the last 2 years.
Right. And the Prim building was, I think, revolutionary because it democratized content creation. Now, High Fidelity is building with voxels. Ebbe also mentioned voxels, which to me is on the surface at least the same thing when it comes to kind of putting stuff together in a Lego very, very quick and easy way. So I think that is an important aspect to keep that democratizing the content creation aspect of it as a major point.
It does several things. It allows you to build in world, but it also allows you to build together with someone else. And most importantly, it opens up the building technology to a wide range of users. Even though Second Life is complicated, no matter what anyone says, learning to build is something that you can do in a couple of days. You never stop learning because you're always inventing and discovering new stuff.
Well, in the sense of ease of use, I also want to point out, and we pointed this out before, is that some see Unity 3D as a major competitor to Second Life, but Unity 3D still, I think, requires much more kind of delving into the software in order to get started and get something going. Second Life, comparatively, as it stands now, is a lot easier. If Linden Lab is successful in creating a platform, a world that has that ease of use, they're going to be successful.
The best possible solution for Second Life next generation is that they create some sort of building tool where you can build in world and then push a big red button and it gets changed into mesh. pretty much like Mesh Studio and other in-world mesh software or building tools. I mean, because that would allow you to have both things in one. You get two birds in one hand, or whatever they call it these days, two birds with one stone. You can build with prims or whatever you're going to call it in world together with friends in a very easy way, and then you can change it into mesh.
One thing that he also said in that context is that they will take this outside content and convert it into an internal format. I think that's important, what he said there. So there is an internal format, and like you said, maybe that's a format where we can hopefully build simultaneously. But he also mentioned that exporting is an issue, and I guess he hinted at the fact that you will not be able to export content, but you will have full control over what you imported. Now, but that again, leads me to speculate, hey, what about starting the building process in world if exporting is an issue? What are they thinking about along those lines? I mean, I'm really curious. Does that mean we have the same problem with prim building as it stands right now, that is complicated to actually export it and have it there? Are they banking on the fact that most people, professional people, or that the dedicated amateur is going to build outside and have a backup, and then has agency over that content to port it to other platforms? So are they going to work around that issue in that way? Or
they said they were going to probably use Mesh. We sort of concluded that. And if you're using Mesh, you should be able to export it quite easily. So, are they going for something different?
This is a business decision that there will be significant competition between proprietary formats. Let's face it, that's the world we live in. Ebbe also said in the keynote that he's not anticipating virtual worlds to be compatible amongst each other. I mean, he made good points. He said that would be restrictive in the beginning when people are developing those. As we both know, Jo, that a lot of people are developing virtual worlds right now. VentureBeat just had a big article with an Oculus executive saying that...
I wouldn't be too bothered about being able to send your avatar to different virtual worlds, or move between them until we are a few years down the line. Because
you're talking avatar stuff, but I'm talking content now.
Yeah, anything, because I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years we're going to have a dozen or maybe more big virtual worlds, and I'm also sure that a few years later, at least half of these would have vanished again. We are on that in that moment in time, with the virtual renaissance when everything's going to be big. We're doing the VHS and Betacom and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and in that regard, I have to say that I agree. I mean, I agree with Ebbe, or at least I sympathize with their thinking about how to form a business around this.
Yeah. You have to wait a little, but I think that if in 5 years or 10 years, there are going to be 3 or 4 big virtual worlds, and they are not going anywhere. They are the massive ones, the Apple virtual world, the Facebook world, and Second Life, next generation. Let's hope so. Then it is probably a very wise idea to try and find a way to move between these. But until we are at that moment where you're sure that the virtual world that you're spending loads of time and money on to try and make it compatible with your virtual world is not going to vanish next week.
Here is a quote from Ebbe that I put down when I listened to the keynote. Standards and portability is not their focus, not Linden Lab's focus. Interchange of content, etc. adds too much complexity, and they don't want to target the lowest common denominator. Like I said, I understand it, but let's look at a content creator's point of view. Let's look at Matt P. Games, for instance. They have a fan base in Second Life, but they also want to be, targeting other venues, other worlds or other game platforms, mobile, maybe an app. So it's important that the content that they develop, that they can port it easily to these other platforms. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that Linden Lab is aware of this, and that falls into the category what Ebbe also said, that you will be able to import it, you will be able to convert it quickly, and you still have it outside. So that hints at their approach to this potential problem, that they just sort of say, hey, if you have it backed up. If you create it outside in third-party software XYZ, you don't have a problem, but you just got to make sure that you have that backup. So the onus is on you to have this backup.
Yeah, it's complicated, but it's early days. We'll have to see.
It's a problem that thankfully we don't have to solve. We can just speculate about it.
We just have to suffer it.
Well, in an ideal world, you have in-world building tools that are fully compatible to the outside world. Just when I record music, I play any instrument, and I put it into the multi-track system, and I export it, from the multi-track system as an AIFF, a WAV, or an MP3, and that can be played back everywhere.
Except on my gramophone player.
But if you would create a vinyl from scratch by scratching...
Vinyl? That's way too
Oh, sorry, shellac.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. Right, I'm talking vinyl. Why I'm talking vinyl? The shellac you're talking about.
You haven't heard a song unless you've heard it on shellac on a 78 Decca gramophone player.
Of course. Well, I'm in a at least 96 kilohertz world, so let's move on here. Yeah, elitism.
Yeah.
So the other thing that Ebbe mentioned was that they chose C# as the programming language to be used in the next generation platform.
Yeah.
A real language that people actually speak, well, at least they script with it. A language that is out there, like Python or JavaScript. High Fidelity works with JavaScript, so that was a decision they made. Very interesting. I can see why they made that decision. So there are people who already speak that language, can program with it. It can be learned everywhere, and it's not an esoteric language that only exists in Second Life.
I couldn't script my way out of a paper bag, and I've spent the last 5 years in Second Life begging, bribing, and paying people to make scripts for me. So,
well, I studied audio engineering under John Boylan, who worked with the Eagles, and he always said, sorry, there's another name drop for you, but he also said, if you can't acquire it, hire it. So that's good what you're doing, Joe. You just got to find script kiddies who do that stuff for you.
Yeah.
But let me just throw this out to the listeners. Please let us know what you think about this whole creation thing, because I think that's a crucial issue, the compatibility of the content that you create, especially people like Matt P. and people at that level of design and creation. What are your concerns about this stuff? Let's have this discussion. The new platform will be 13 years plus, which I think is great. So they are prioritizing making it safe for younger users.
It was a bit of a shock at first because people were thinking, that's, even younger. But Ebbe explained that legally, there is no difference between a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, trouble-wise. So nothing is really changing technically. But I personally, in my sim, would not mind, younger people. I'm sure it worries a few people, but then again, we have enough tools and rules and regulations to make sure that we don't get into trouble, I think.
Real quick, in response to Revitalize, there was a question from the audience that came at Ebbe's keynote. They asked about revitalizing the mentor program. As you may remember, there was a program where folks greeted you at the door, so to speak, noobs. There was a gateway program too, where pre-approved organizations with bigger islands, they had to prove that they had staff that could welcome people. So the mentor program, he said, is not going to be revitalized because there were too many biased people. I'm maybe misquoting him. This is just what I wrote down here. So this is just the overall gist of what he was saying as I heard it. People misrepresenting what Second Life is for their own good. It now put the nail into the coffin of the mentor program, which is regrettable, but I can absolutely see that it's just not feasible to monitor the program. Maybe a listener has an idea how to bring back a hand-holding mentor program. I mean, how would you do it? How would you manage any number of people? Let's say you have 10 different sims and you hire a bunch of people. How do you make sure that they don't use that for their own gain and misrepresent your brand?
Well, you can't really. I mean, you can never be sure. It's just that after 5 years in Second Life, almost 6, you make friends. and you trust people. And of course, there's always going to be a few, and I'm not naming any names, but you know who you are, who, suddenly change their character or, decide to go and do something you don't agree with. But in the end, you have to take a risk and say, I can't spend all my time in this place running it. I'm going to have to go and ask someone to help me with it and just hope that they don't go nuts.
Let me say that in closing of the Ebbe keynote speech, he also mentioned the inventory management that they're working on. They're working on for the new platform, that this inventory management is going to be able to handle massive inventories. So for the shoppers and the pack rats, that's good news.
I've only got 40,000 things in my inventory. I'm all right.
Now, a few other topics real quick.
You forgot the most important thing.
I did? Which was what?
Yeah, he was wearing a suit.
Oh, yeah, he was wearing a suit. It looked like a Man in Black without the sunglasses. Yeah, it looked good.
Yeah. It was all flashy and shiny and... Finally, because, yesterday he was in Berlin at the bar again, having another schnapps. And he was wearing his jeans, and nobody was saying anything. We were all thinking it. Mm-hmm. But it's really nice that he's finally found a suit.
People didn't have these types of suits in the 20s. Let me just say that. You and your accuracy,
True, but, it's a step in the right direction.
I want to mention that South by Southwest is going on after GDC. We have another festival. It's not really related. It's in Austin, Texas. South by Southwest used to be independent music, independent film. Now it's all big display of tech, still geeks
independent
and nerds.
Everything.
Not, some might say it's not really that independent anymore. It's a little bit maybe co-opted by the big guns. Who knows? But what's interesting, also VR is obviously big at South by Southwest, and there is an exhibitor, a company called Marxent Labs, and Marxent Labs has, and I'm not sure if they trademarked holodeck. They have the trademark sign on their website. Maybe it's Marxent Holodeck. But anyway, they are a provider of augmented reality apps for mobile devices. Simple stuff. You overlay products or building elements into the real world, and then you can see if the fridge fits into that place you have in the kitchen. You basically place a physical marker down on the physical ground, and then the app can pick that up and transform that physical marker to whatever you want to see in the overlay. And they build at South by Southwest, they build an entire room that has markers all over the place, so you can run around in that room holding up your iPad, your mobile device, and you can see the room change in any which way, displaying whatever you like it to display. You
got the limits of your walls. I mean, you can't go very far.
Yeah, Ben Lang last week from Road to VR talked about the HTC Vive headset, how they have sort of a little warning sign that pops up when you go too close to the wall. So people are working on solutions if we come to a holodeck situation at home, so that we don't bump into walls. Apple is also on the augmented reality bandwagon. The Apple Insider blog reports that Apple has augmented reality R&D team now. They may look at this from an angle of sort of making the devices a little bit more fashionable than Google Glass.
It's not really my cup of tea, and for most of these augmented reality things, you still need to wear massive glasses.
Yeah, but that's where Apple comes in. I mean, Apple has a track record of making things fashionable, including watches that you didn't know that you needed a $500, $600 watch.
I don't understand they didn't go for pocket watches. Much more fun.
A couple more news items. A new Oculus viewer is out by David Rowe, who we know in Second Life, and David Rowe we also know in High Fidelity. Control Alt Studio Viewer includes Linden Labs Project Interesting Code that makes loading content faster, utilizes the content delivery network. It's only Windows at the moment, so it's cool to see David Rowe is still kind of doing a little bit stuff in Second Life, and it's not in High Fidelity all the time. Hitbox versus Twitch, I wrote down here. I moved from Twitch. You might have seen this on the New World Notes blog. Iris Ophelia blogged about it. Twitch, the streaming provider, says that pretty much everything in SL, I'm paraphrasing, is of sexual nature, and therefore maturity ratings are an issue, and Twitch can't control that. And now they're not allowing Second Life content to be streamed over Twitch any longer.
As if you don't, as if you can't do all those things in quite a few games as well.
The way this is phrased, I understand that they want to limit their liability. For example, SL Go is still not available in Germany because of maturity ratings of games. And when you have an SL Go account, you buy an OnLive account, essentially. So essentially, you could stream content of M-rated games, and in Germany is restricted in that regard, which I think is good. So that's where that comes from. But the way this was phrased on the Twitch blog is I think, a little bit offensive, that everything in Second Life is of sexual nature, or whatever they said, it's the sole nature of the game or the primary reason for the game or something like that. I mean,
what I don't understand is that they just don't add a disclaimer or a warning, like on YouTube and things like that. Just a little picture that says you're about to watch something that may have adult content. I mean, don't they stream Grand Theft Auto as well? There is hanky-panky.
Anyway, so that's Twitch. I moved to hitbox.tv. I'm streaming from there whenever I have a little time.
Does that work on Second Life SL Go already?
Maybe it's feasible for OnLive, or maybe they're even thinking about offering a streaming service where you tell them that they could stream this also onto a website. So they have an additional service. They're streaming to you when you're in Second Life. What they do, obviously, is you looking at a visual representation of a movie of yourself in Second Life. So it should be easy to just use that content and stream it to another web property.
Yeah, or they can do the same like what they do with Flickr, is let you upload straight to YouTube.
That's possible with Hitbox and Twitch, the YouTube port. So I don't want to spend too much time on an article on a website called good.is.
Never heard of it.
A new media artist by the name of Michael Green is going to spend 365 days of adventure in Second Life.
He's not a media artist. He's just a little griefer.
Yeah. I mean, art lies in the eye of the beholder. Again, discussion...
No, it does not. Art begins there where the ability of most people ends, a German philosopher once said. And anyone can do what he does. There you go. Done. He's not an artist, and he doesn't do anything interesting in Second Life. Move on.
It is visually awful, and it's content-wise, it's offensive what he does. The biggest problem that I have, I'm going to just spend 2 more sentences on it, and then let's leave it at that, is that the blog, good.is, just printed a Q&A with him without challenging him on any of the points that he made. And some of the points that he made are just factually inaccurate.
Did you seriously expect journalism?
I'm an idealist. I expect a journalist to ask questions and to
check sources,
challenge and check the facts. Yes, I do.
Yeah, dream on.
The Spiegel in Germany. Let's stay in Germany real quick. You can see...
Now we're getting a little closer to journalism. Quite a good magazine.
Right. And they report also that Samsung has sort of used the fact that a father saw the birth of his own child via a Samsung Gear VR goggles. They kind of use that to capitalize on it and use it in a commercial.
Ew. I hope they put a block on that for adult viewing only.
I don't know. See, this is the weird thing about America. You can't see anything, but birth is still like, this is like the holy thing.
I would rather watch Terminator 2 5 times than one more birth.
I'm going to move on quickly through the other news items. Linden Lab halts the use of Linden dollars on other grids, on OpenSIM grids, specifically AV Nation. That was reported first on Hypergrid News blog, and Inara Pay on the Modem World blog picked that up. As Inara points out, you should read the whole article, that the lab banned in 2013 Linden dollars trading, but then subsequently allowed third-party operations to continue to sell Linden dollars. It's the authorized reseller program that is happening right now. To me, the fact that Linden dollars can't be used on other grids is very simple liability issue. They're limiting their liability. I would do the exact same thing.
It's a shame, though.
Yeah, but you know, I know people want to see sort of the Linden dollar being the currency for the entire metaverse.
Yeah.
You know, and we had Chris Colosi on, who used to be at Linden Lab. He has those Globits. He's trying to offer a global currency for games and digital goods and services. I think that's a smart business plan that he has. But for Linden Lab to monitor the use of the Linden dollar with already allegations of fraud and money laundering being thrown around, it's an issue of resources, human resources.
But, you know, I think I've seen the financial team in one of your photos and videos when you visited them. And I think it's like 4 people in a room with a dog.
Yeah, that's not too far off. Exactly. So,
however,
and they're monitoring millions of US dollars of microtransactions per day.
Talking of Linden dollars, Ebbe mentioned that they are looking into somehow trying to confirm Second Life users. Think of a new system that will allow them to pay out Lindens a lot faster, like almost instantly, like PayPal. If you are if you are confirmed, if they have your identity and things like that, if they know that you're not a terrorist or you're not
right.
Putting money in the black market or things like that.
That is a big incentive to use the platform as a place for business. Because
quite often it's happened twice now that there is a deal on Steam where they're selling a nice game that I want on a discount, and I'm waiting for Linden Lab to send me money, and it's a day late or a few hours late, and the deal is off, which is so annoying.
Okay, we got to move on. A new feature of the show, our musical interlude. Today's music again is from Jordan Rain because I just love her so much. Dark electronic folk. Celtic, I don't know what you call it. Regardless, I think she has tons of talent and she's using it in real life and in Second Life, walking and chewing gum at the very same time. This song is called Wilt and it's from her album Birds of Prey.
She stands in her corner of the room, swept out of the way like so many empty used packets of shit in the garbage bin, matching the decor of bones in the closet. People's pity, not pain like you're drowning in. Oh,
So that was Jordan Rain with the tune Wild from her album Birds of Prey. And now let's play my conversation with Oz Linden. I had a comparatively short amount of time to talk to him, but it was a real pleasure to finally speak with the man who is a wizard of sorts. He's the director of Second Life Engineering at Linden Lab, and he addressed a group of educators as we go to air. This is happening, and by the time you catch the podcast, I should say, it might already be up on the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education YouTube or live stream archive. We will link to those. And I asked him what he was planning on telling that diverse group of educators, and he said he wanted to listen more than talking, which I personally think is a good thing.
No, I think that you should spend more time listening instead of talking as well.
I gave you that one. That was an in punch.
I kicked in that open door, didn't I? Couldn't resist.
Here's Oz Linden.
Well, what I am hoping to hear is what are the constraints that we need to help live within, right? The problem that we keep hearing, and in fact, we just had another incident this week, problem report escalated from customer support just yesterday. An educational institution, I never did hear who it was actually, who had installed the Second Life viewer on a lot of machines, lab systems that are used by students. And so quite properly, they are set up so that the ordinary users who log in on don't have admin rights on the system. They can't install software, which means if the viewer wants to upgrade, they're just stuck and they can't use it because the upgrade can't happen on their account. It has to happen when some administrator logs in. Of course, that's the only sensible way to set up a shared use computer, right? Otherwise, Windows systems especially would just not work. And apparently they got a mandatory update and it was very disruptive, right?
But you don't have those anymore. You don't have mandatory updates, I thought.
Well, we sometimes do, although not nearly as frequently as we used to. We usually let things go for 2 or 3 months, at least, before we decide that something is too old and do it. And frankly, we forget to do that check very often. It's kind of a manual process that we have to say, oh, gee, it's been a long time since we expired anything. Let's go look and see how much we've been allowing and see if we should move the line. What is frequent is that we, as part of our new process that we started at, 1.5 years, 2 years ago now, for releasing viewers, we put these release candidate viewers out there and project viewers, which are, early versions of something that are out there for testing and validating, because when it comes right down to it, the only way to be sure that something is going to work well in Second Life is to put it in Second Life. Second Life is so big and so complicated that doing a complete test of viewer functionality would take from now until the sun goes nova. What we do is put out these candidate versions. Well, the candidate versions, when they change, those are always mandatory updates, right? Because otherwise we'd end up with 1 million half-tested versions of software out there. So the candidates, when we decide that there's something wrong with them or we need to, update them because some other viewer got released, those are always mandatory updates. And what had happened with this particular institution, for some reason, they had chosen to install a release candidate version on all of their systems. It may be that they just picked the one with the highest version number. I don't know. They didn't tell me why. It did happen to be the one with the highest version number, so that's a likely explanation. But those get updated quite frequently, and those updates are always mandatory. But what I want to hear is, what I want to do is hear from educators, how frequently can you update, right? What would be a good way for us to communicate about updates in a way that's sufficiently proactive to give you the opportunity to do that in a well-planned, well-organized way at whatever frequency works for you?
Maybe even by old-fashioned email for old-fashioned IT people at old-fashioned institutions.
If that would work, that's certainly a possibility. Mostly what I want to do is hear what are the constraints, both organizational and procedural and technical, that we need to live within and use to communicate, so that we can better serve a market we'd really like to serve.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is something that I frequently hear too when we talk with educators on the podcast, and I'm so enthusiastic about Second Life in the educational context. I don't get tired, talking to people here locally. The eye rolling is their eye rolling is somewhat never ending, and I think some people may cross the street when they see me coming. But but what are some of the other things that you are kind of expecting? I mean, I would venture to guess that maybe keeping things contained on a sim somehow, these kind of restriction of content. Or restriction of movement, let's put it this way, for students might be a big issue for them, don't you think? Or is there something that you guys thinking about?
That is something that we have. I mean, we've set it up that way for some contexts, right? It is possible for us to create estates where accounts are associated with an estate, and when you have one of those accounts, that's the only place you can get to. Right.
I was just going to add, because I think that there is a solution, but I think people or some educators might just not know that they just have to do it that way with estates.
It's not something we make a very big deal about, and I'm not sure why that is. But I'm looking forward to hearing whatever it is that they've got to communicate with us. The initial impetus was the issue of viewer updates, and I think I'll have a couple of other Lindens along for the ride to help me listen. When was the last time that a conversation when a Linden showed up stayed on topic? I mean, it pretty much always goes to people's favorite things, and that's fine. Sometimes those things really turn out to be really interesting ideas.
And sometimes it might just be past grievances of some educators still having issues with what happened back then when their discount was sort of slashed without giving them proper notice.
I mean, certainly that topic comes up periodically. Fortunately, anything that has anything to do with billing, I can just say, that's not me. I don't do anything about that. I have nothing to do with the money. I just build the world. I just build the things that let you build the world.
Okay. Now, what is the main competitor of Second Life in the space for educators? I would say Minecraft. What would you say?
Oh, gee, I don't even know.
I mean, in terms of building, in terms of having sort of a collaborative experience where you can shape the virtual space to your liking. I'm talking with a guy in Ireland. They used OpenSim actually in middle school. They went out, they took photos of ruins, and then the kids came in and they rebuilt it in OpenSim. This was a fabulous project. Do you have any concrete competitors?
I've been tempted to try to build my own property here at home in Second Life. Build my house and build my property around it.
I want to build my grandfather's house that they had to tear it down in 1990, and I want to rebuild that. We have lots of photos, and I actually kind of want to put non-player characters of my family in there, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But competitors, I mean, who is eating your lunch in that space?
Oh well, nobody's even close. As far as I can tell. Tell you the truth, I don't think about competitors very much. I focus on doing what we do and making what we do better. I got a fascinating little bit of information from one of our operations engineers today, actually. We recently switched to delivering mesh and texture data, and a little bit further ago, avatar texture data through content delivery networks. That has proven to be very, very successful. It's made a significant difference in improvement in performance for a lot of people. And I think we're gonna keep doing some tweaks to that will make it even better. But she gave me the amount of data our content delivery network delivered to users in January, and it was pretty close to 1.9 petabytes. So try to find the equivalent number for anybody else, and then tell me we've got competition.
Get somebody from Minecraft to comment on that.
Well, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, and I'm sure that they do. I know people who are very enthusiastic about Minecraft. Personally, I think they should check out Blox World, but
that's what I tell them. And every time I say that a Linden dollar gets transferred magically to my account for some reason. But going with educators real quick.
I think the obvious problem for educators is that they have both financial and context constraints that probably make it difficult for them that make it understandably difficult for them to say we want to use Second Life, which, whether well deserved or not, it has kind of a colorful reputation, right? I can see where sometimes that would maybe not be the right political thing to put in a grant application or a course proposal. But I think there's actually lots of evidence that people are very, very successfully using Second Life in a whole bunch of interesting educational contexts. We actually had a company meeting today where we had someone come in and talk to us about research he's been doing in virtual reality and some of it in Second Life. And it was fascinating.
It's great that you mentioned the perception or the reputation, because I'm personally not sure if really everybody has that kind of, is stuck with a certain perception. I meet a lot of people who have absolutely no perception, who, believe it or not, have not really heard about Second Life or virtual world, and I see them as potential stakeholders.
Oh yeah, the vast majority of people who ask me what I do have never heard of Second Life.
Now, you mentioned that there are ongoing projects. I've interacted a lot with the educators community. I was involved in some fascinating projects, and I absolutely agree with you that there are things happening. They may be under the radar, but let me ask you, and this is a conundrum that we talk about on the show every once in a while, the enthusiastic educator is sometimes not necessarily the one who is technically savvy. And some of the projects that they're doing they're great, but so much more could be done. So we had a show a couple of weeks ago that we called Dancing with the PowerPoints, because we had an educator as a guest, and she said, usually we go into Second Life, then we dance, and then there's a PowerPoint presentation. And I go like, but what can be done? Maybe there should be a marketplace where content creators, enthusiastic, geeks and scripters are paired up with these educators that have projects for them, I suppose. There's kind of a mismatch between people who want to do it, but they lack those skills. There
are so many interesting connections that happen in Second Life all the time that one can't help but think that there are infinitely more that could happen and haven't yet. I know that, for example, the work that Virtual Ability does all the time with helping content creators of all kinds with making their work more accessible is really terrific. And I know that they do a lot of outreach. One of the things about having such a big, incredibly diverse product is that there's no shortage of great things you could do. The problem is picking out the ones you can do right now.
Educators, are you listening? Go out there and find that dude who has the time to bring the project that you envision right now, who can script it, who has the skills and the time to do it, because they're probably out there.
When I first started at the lab, one of my neighbors, who's also a software engineer, I mentioned to him that I was going to be working with Second Life, and he said, "Oh, I got very involved in Second Life for a couple of years a while back, and for one reason or another, I got away from it." He said, "But it was really great to be a programmer in Second Life because everybody there treats you like a wizard because you can do the scripting that makes their stuff come alive." I would actually expand what you said to say to the computer science students of the world, you like to think of yourselves as wizards. In Second Life, it works.
But now we're getting somewhere. See, because this is my next question. How could Linden Lab do more messaging? And here's my idea. They should put little 1-minute vignettes, 45 seconds of awesome machinima with a little music and voiceover. But then you or other Lindens, with the laptop here, turning to the camera, you can be that wizard. Boom. And there you got a minute of a nice web commercial.
Yeah, well, you're way outside my area of expertise there, Drax.
But can Linden Lab do more? You're an engineer. You're not in the marketing department. But can they do more? I don't know. Can they do more to shape perception or especially in the regards of educators. I mean, I guess with the diversity of people who use it, it's tough if you go after this one segment. I mean, essentially, Second Life is for everyone. So who are you going to kind of prioritize is the question.
Well, I think that's a great question, and I'm in no way qualified to answer it. I do think that it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next several months, and at this point we're only talking several months as the consumer versions of all these VR headsets come out, and we're going to be right there. I mean, we're going to be by far the easiest place for people to really experience those in a fully general way, right? And you want to have something to do with your new virtual reality headset you're going to get for your birthday in 2015?
The slogan is, you got goggles, we got world.
Yeah. We have a whole world you can explore. It's all there. You don't even have to make it to do it. And it's pretty great stuff. I think that's going to be really exciting. And I think that educators are just one of many kinds of people who are going to be able to take advantage of that.
One more question. I don't know how this started, but somebody said, oh, poor Oz got left behind because everybody moved to SL 2.0, but that's what we call it. And you said, no. I really actually like to be there. And, it's not over. We're not closing shop or anything. And even if a transition goes into the new world, it's not going to be an exodus and then we're going to close the door.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that comment because I make it every time I talk about Second Life. First of all, I have a big motivation as an engineer. I like to build things, right? And which sort of overlaps beautifully with Second Life, but I like to build things that people use. I get a big charge out of people using the things that I build. And that's why, when it came time for me to think about what my next role within the lab was going to be, I kind of felt it was time for me to move on from just doing open source work. I looked around at what the opportunities were, and at the time, there were a lot of opportunities. We were doing many projects at that point. Some of those have since spun off and done other things with, but there is still, of course, the big new platform going on, and there's Bloxworld. But I looked around and I said, where are the users? Where are the people? Where are the people who care about what's going on? And who are going to either love or hate what I do. But either way, they're going to care about it. And the answer was obvious. That's why I asked for the role I'm in now and worked hard to get it. And I couldn't be happier. I literally couldn't be happier. This is the best job I've had in my whole career. I'm really having a ball.
So that was Oz Linden. You can find his address from VWBPE online. We'll link to the video as soon as it is made available, as well as all the others from that conference.
1920s Berlin is an educational sim as well. We may not dress it up like one with tables and chairs and blackboards and things like that, but people are learning a lot.
So glad you pointed that out because I was confused since you don't have any PowerPoint presentation in 1920s Berlin.
This is virtual reality. We can do education in a different way.
Okay. The weekend is upon us. Jo, what are you doing this weekend?
Apparently, someone has made water you can res in world, which is great for skyboxes because Second Life water is really nice. But if you want to do something in a skybox or on a hill or something that you can't use Second Life water, and I've seen a video of it and it looks quite interesting. I'm not quite sure how brilliant it's going to be, but it looks good, and I can't wait to give it a go. So I may do that.
I was in there and it looks really great. A woman by the name of Oriella, who runs the Rivers and Rapids sim, came up with that. It looks really great for your skybox. Yeah, it's right there. It's water you can res, and you can have waterfalls, lakes, everything.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
I'm going to go to play a game made by Estelle PNR, and she made an awesome game on my home island of Escapades. It's a fun, cute game that doesn't involve killing others, but it utilizes all the bells and whistles that Linden Lab pushed out if I get around to playing it on the weekend, I will certainly stream it on my new Hitbox account, hitbox.tv/Dragster. We'll also link to Estelle's blog, the SL Play Instinct blog, where she has hints and tips for playing the game. Game is called Free Wilma.
Do I get to kill people?
No, don't go in there. It's not for killing.
Well, I'll just do the game and I'll really enjoy it, and then I'll come and kill you because I know where you live.
We're going out today with Ebbe Linden and some highlights from the keynote at the Educators Conference with a little bit of music underneath to make the flow nice and groovy. Make sure to read up on Jeremy Bailenson writing on VR, the guy from Stanford Virtual Human Interaction Lab. Ebbe mentioned him at the keynote several times. We'll link to all his publications. And I actually hope to go up to Stanford at some point and get a tour there. So I hope that might be happening next month. All right, that's it, and goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
All right, here we are. Just like we have unparalleled experience in providing the platform, you, as the pioneers and early adopters, have a huge leg up on understanding what education can and should be in the future. Voice will obviously be a very natural way of interacting in VR, but that doesn't work for everybody in all use cases. So voice to text and text to voice makes absolute sense. I don't see it being a super difficult thing to do. I'm sure we could use some Google service or something like that to make that a pretty darn good experience without too much work. Never say never, but we're not starting with it being open source. So some of these viewers you have for Second Life, we might have to partner with some of those people to better understand how we can make sure that we build some of those things into the one viewer we will do. A lot of third-party tools that do a much better job of specifically creating content for various use cases you could leverage, which is not that easy to do in Second Life today. We want to make that very easy and support a huge number of third-party tools to be the part of the creation or tool chain, as we call it, for the next generation platform. The scripting language will be C#, which is a good thing because there's obviously a lot more people that know how to do things in C# than there ever will be to understand how to do something in Linden's scripting language. So you'll have a real programming language to work with. You can easily use a lot of existing talent in the world today to create some really incredible content with third-party tools and C#. Millions and millions of people that can contribute towards creating content. We have to do a tremendous amount of work on compliance to make sure that money that goes out meets all the criteria to be so that we can have comfortable relationships with banks. We don't want money laundering or any of those shenanigans going on. Our goal is to make it something that we can get users 13 and plus to participate in, and therefore have to solve whatever issues arise because of that. And that's a challenge that we've put in front of ourselves. It must be in our thinking of how we provide you the data that empowers you to succeed. What we have to figure out is where do we draw the line on what level of detail of that data you can get? Because we obviously have a relationship with the customer, and so do you. We take raw content from the outside world, and we will be able to convert that into our internal format, which will be a highly optimized format for sort of runtime. And it's not even clear to us that we will even preserve the original format in any shape or form. So exporting a full experience, it's not clear how easy it would be, but you obviously still have full control over the original content that you imported in the first place. I'm not necessarily expecting there to be lots of different worlds that are compatible with each other, where you can easily just take everything you do and just move it over to the next one. The way we think about 3D content will be different. The way we think about avatars and skeleton systems will be different. We're focused more on high performance and high quality, and probably less about portability. I would love for a day for there to be more portable, but it's not our main focus. We've been doing it for a long time, and we'll continue to do it for much, much longer. So I'm really looking forward to what we can accomplish together to change the way we can teach and learn.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Maven Homes, Giza Creations, Leap Motion, SL Go by On Live, Stitcher, Ison, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Caravel Design, Vicar Creations, Humanoid Animations, Loki Elliott, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Mad P Games, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, Blue Moon Enterprises, What's Next, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.